Hello, everybody, and welcome to Curtis's Podcast Network and this AFC South show, number 145. We're not going to be talking about the Super Bowl this time. We're going to wait and save that a little bit closer to time. But tonight, we're going to step back, take a deep breath, and look back on the 2023-2024 regular season for the AFC South. So, stick around for that. But before we get into that, my name's Curtis, host of the channel. With me, as always, Isaiah Michelli, a.k.a. Duval's Finest on Twitter, a.k.a. the Glitter Kitty Conquistador, a.k.a. OnlyJags.com. With us,
Please do that.
with us, as always, our resident Colts fan, speak softly and carry a big stick, Jeffrey Steckel. And then with us, of course, as always, our regular Titans fan, Blake B squared Bellamy. I don't know. I'm gonna have to come up with some better ones for Blake.
Yeah, gotta get some better ones.
I'll get it. But we are all representatives, fans of our respective teams here in the South. So if you are a fan of Colts, Titans, Texans, or Jags, you've come to the right spot. Hit the notification bell and the subscribe button so you don't miss any future content, and hit the thumbs up button because we're trying to grow and we're trying to reach new heights on this channel. Unless your name is Chubby Brown Bear. Hit the So, without any further ado,
version. Sorry.
let's talk about the 2023 regular season. Who wants to lead off with week one?
I mean, I guess it'd only be right for me or Jeff.
I mean,
since we played each other.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor and the offense, they looked really disjointed. That was just kind of the start of the season where we just didn't look like we were on the same page basically at all. We still put up 31 points. I mean, even not being all on the same page, we did. I think that was more of the Colts defense not really having answers for us for the most of the game. Not necessarily that we were just blowing them out or anything. They got some last minute points that brought them back into the game, but Bigsby had the tipped interception. Andy had the fumble where he picked it up off the ground after it got knocked out of Trevor's hands, and then they knocked it out of his hands. Not a good first game for him. Outside of that, though, it was a pretty solid performance. That last touchdown, or was that the fumble return? Was the last touchdown for the Colts of the game?
They didn't put any points up in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, because AR came out, got the two touchdowns early, one in the air and one on the ground. And then, yeah, that's right. So, yeah, I mean, we held them pretty good. They contained AR-15 pretty good. He really was kind of getting into it. He was trying not to run too much from what I could tell. And the defense just kept him. Josh Allen had, I think, 2 sacks where he, touched him right before he went out of bounds. Nothing where he didn't just rip the dude to the ground. But, yeah, him and Trayvon got some good pressure, and defense looked solid. Offense just – looked like they didn't really know what was going on. They're on the same page. But overall, solid first game for the season. Just did not lead to anything better than that.
Yeah. Jeffrey?
Yeah, this was – the Colts really couldn't do anything. They got a couple of sacks, but didn't get a whole lot of pressure on Trevor. Just kind of let him sit around. Probably the biggest performer of the game was Pittman. The running game in that one was abysmal. They didn't have Moss. They didn't have, of course, Taylor. So Richardson was their leading rusher with 40 yards. So it was a bad day on the ground. I think that might have been the game where I was really pissed off of Deion Jackson. I think he lost a fumble in there or something, but he had 1 yard per carry. It was a really bad day on the ground, and they still kept it within 10 points. So it was a good start. It was kind of a good glimpse at Richardson and what he could bring to the table with his athleticism. I mean, he only had 13 incompletions out of 37 attempts, so it was a good start to the season for him, despite the injury at the very end of the game, pretty much.
Okay. Blake, Titans?
Yeah, Titans had the Saints. There's 2 teams where they thought they'd be better than they were. Tannehill was starting QB1. It was just all defense. He couldn't throw the ball. Derrick Henry couldn't do anything. Derrick Henry could never do anything week 1. So the Ravens will find that out next year. Couldn't really do anything. Titans ended up losing 16-15 in New Orleans.
Okay. Houston played Baltimore in Baltimore week 1, losing 25-9. No running game to speak of. Dameon Pierce was bottled up. Singletary was not able to do much on his limited touches. The passing game, you could see flashes of CJ Stroud figuring it out as the game was going on, but the passing game was just not quite in rhythm yet. Pass pro not so hot, if I'm not mistaken. 4 sacks allowed on CJ Stroud that first week, and the biggest thing though, it wasn't the defense just getting mollywopped all game. It was slow incremental chips in the defense, and it was most of the damage was done on the ground. This was the first of 4 games in a row with 8+ penalties. 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground kind of encapsulate the end of the season for the Texans as it would play out, but not a very good start. There was glimpses and some things to build on going forward, but a lot of injuries kept starters out, and because of that, the team suffered 25-9. Week 2, Houston and Indianapolis play. Houston couldn't get a running game going to save its life. Passing game didn't get going until way late in the game. They started relying more on cover 3 coverages, and just CJ Stroud started lighting it up because he can find the creases in his own defense pretty well. Pass pro was abysmal, 6 sacks allowed. CJ Stroud was running for his life all game that week. No sacks on defense, and again, 3 rushing touchdowns allowed and 8+ penalties. Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, this game was pretty much a blowout until the fourth quarter, where they drew it, within 11. This is a really good bounce back game for the Colts, just all around. I know Gardner Minshew. I think he's came in at pretty much halftime. I want to say somewhere around there.
Yeah, pretty much.
He only had 4 incompletions, so he did enough to keep that lead for Indianapolis. Zach Moss came back and he had almost 5 yards per carry, so it was a huge improvement over what they did against Jacksonville. Kind of leads you to wonder if Moss had kept going, where he would have been at amongst the rushing leaders. But yeah, I mean, it was a good week on the ground and a good week for Minshew overall. Really good week for the defense.
Yeah,
6 sacks is pretty solid.
Yeah. Blake, week 2 Titans.
Yeah, week 2 is actually exactly what the Titans needed. It was a bounce back after that really slow offensive start. We knew there'd be growing pains with a new offensive coordinator and Tim Kelly, but he was dicing it up, man. He was calling plays. He was running a lot of play action that Tannehill is just natural at, and he was just carving these dudes up. He threw for 250 yards, which is great in Tannehill standards and Titan standards in general. Game went to overtime, and Tennessee is going to take the victory at home against the Los Angeles Chargers.
Okay. Isaiah, let's talk about your glitter kitties, week 2.
Yeah, week 2, offense did not exist. A very defensive game with Kansas City. Defense really did play well against Mahomes up until the end of the game. They let up a touchdown on the last 2 drives, last drive, and then they let him get deep on the second to last drive, touchdown. Last drive, they let him get deep in our territory on a broken play to Sky Moore for 54 yards, and then they nailed the game out. I mean, honestly, the defense looked good in that game, and our offense just couldn't deliver. And unfortunately, that just didn't really stay that way throughout the season. So hopefully, we can fix that this year.
Yeah. Go ahead and continue with week 3.
Yeah, so we played the Texans. They beat the shit out of us. Nothing really much more to say about that. Most of the touchdowns, I would say, were broken plays, or at least what led up to the touchdowns. 2 of them deep to Tank Dell, down the middle of the field on broken coverage, and then the one big touchdown from Andrew Beck, right? Andrew Beck for 70-something yards. Fullback took it to the house on a kick return. Dude's out there jogging. Dude's out there looking like they didn't want to play. It just wasn't a good week for us. Offense sucked. Not really much more to say about that. The Texans look good. CJ Stroud found the holes and he filled them. Not really much else to say.
Okay.
From the Texans' perspective on week 3, It was the first game that Singletary actually outpaces Damian Pierce in yards per touch. Stroud looked great for the first time. He was able to have a clean pocket and make the throws earlier in the game that set us up for being able to run the ball a little bit better. It wasn't necessarily great, but Stroud was able to find people early and often and spread the ball around. And this was kind of the beginning of what when the Stroud mythos became a thing. At this point, he had still not thrown an interception, and that was starting to become like a big storyline. The Texans' running defense could not stop ETN. He had a really healthy yards per carry over 4. No pass rush to speak of. 8 penalties yet again in this drive or in this game. Jeff, week 3.
Yeah, it was probably the game of the year for the Colts. They trotted out Minshew, of course, because of the Richardson concussion, I believe.
Yeah.
And it was a really good game. He had a very solid game. It wasn't like mind-popping stats, but it was obviously enough to win. It was kind of Moss's breakout game, even though he didn't have a rushing touchdown. Man, he was gashing the Ravens all day. He even had a receiving touchdown though. Zyre Franklin went off for 15 tackles. I think they got 4 sacks on Lamar, and he was pretty much running for his life the entire game. He did have a couple of really good drives where he ended with a rushing touchdown. That was kind of the Colts' biggest problem that week was against the rush. But when Lamar tried to pass, man, they made him pay for it, and they came away with a win. So it was actually even a really good game for their secondary. I think their leading receiver had 48 yards. So it was actually a really good day for the Colts secondary.
Okay. Blake, week 3.
Week 3, Andre Dillard realized just how good Myles Garrett really is. It was so bad. Titans let up at least 300 sacks. I can't remember exactly, but it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 300. Tannehill was just getting clobbered out there. It was 27-3 loss against the Cleveland Browns. It was so bad that I remember Andre Dillard getting interviewed after. It was like, yeah, after the end of the game, Myles Garrett was telling me how to stop letting up sacks and how to work on my craft and all that. It's like, dude, you can't tell the public that. It was such a bad look. I think this is when we realized that the Titans' offensive line is just god awful. We're never going to win games throwing that 5 out there. So yeah. Rough day to be a Titans fan. I remember this very, very well.
Okay. Go ahead with week 4.
Week 4, that was the Cincinnati Bengals, and again at this point, we blew Cincinnati out. It was bad, 27-3. At this point, you're just like, what the hell is going on in Tennessee? Like, are we good? Are we terrible? Are we somewhere in the middle? Yeah, this is a game that Ryan Tannehill was looking really good. We were really stopping Joe Burrow. Derrick Henry had his first Derrick Henry game. So it was really nice to see Derrick Henry kind of going back out there, and it went pretty nuts. Again, jumping to real life, Brian Callahan is the new head coach. He always wants dudes that are very, very tough against him, and he was considering keeping Shane Bowen on staff for that reason, just because he respects the Titans defense. Every time we play them, it's usually pretty good, and the fact that we blew out Cincinnati week 4 was a pretty good time to be a Titans fan at the time.
Yeah. Jeff, week 4.
Yeah. This was a really good game between Colts and the Rams. Anthony Richardson, his completion percentage wasn't great, but he did throw a couple touchdowns. He did rush for another touchdown. Moss again had another pretty solid day on the ground. I think this was Julius Brent's. Juju Brent's. I think this is debut, and I think this is the game where he caused the fumble and kind of turned the tide in the game, if I'm not mistaken. It was a really good game, and unfortunately, just in overtime they let, I believe, Puka Nacua get behind him. But other than that, it was a great game to watch. It was a lot of fun, competitive. especially after the half. It looked like it was going to be a blowout, honestly, and the Colts kind of stormed back. But it just kind of showed, I guess, grit might be an overused word, especially in football, but it just showed a lot of no quit, resiliency in the Colts, because they could have folded up. It was 20-0 at halftime. They forced overtime, so it was a fun game to watch.
Yeah. Isaiah, week 4.
Yeah, so I mean, with week 4, Falcons offense didn't have any answers for what we're doing on defense. Desmond Ridder sucks. We had a defensive touchdown. Foye Aluakon took back a pick 6 for like 20-something yards or 30-something yards. Super athletic dude. So it was nice to see him use that athleticism after getting his hands on a football. Offense clicked, but they were still sloppy. Calvin Ridley got a touchdown against his old team. Trevor looked pretty decent. Just an overall solid game, but not great.
Okay. Week 4, Houston had Pittsburgh travel to town. And this was the first game Houston had all year with over 100 rushing yards, 139 to be exact, 451 total. I have written down here a great team win because they really kicked the Steelers' ass in all 3 phases. 30-6 was the final score here. 1 interception, 3 sacks, 0 rushing touchdowns, 111 passing yards, 225 total. This was probably Dameon Pierce's best day on the ground all season with 24 carries, 81 yards. Singletary threw a touchdown pass in this game, and this is the 4th game in a row with 8 or more penalties. This game kind of gave Shaq Griffin a little bit of immortality in Texans fans' eyes because he played well. And I'll just put it like this. Kenny Pickett ain't him, all right? Neither is Mason Rudolph, who came in for an injured Kenny Pickett late in the 4th. This game could have gotten even more out of hand. There was a called back pick 6 by Will Anderson. This was just an entire team win over the Steelers, and that's a playoff team. We beat a playoff team 30-6. That's pretty solid in week 4. Week 5, we traveled to Atlanta to take a loss, 21-19. The rushing offense, nowhere to be found. I'm pretty sure C.J. Stroud was the leading rusher this week. Stroud looked good, but not great. This was the first game that defenses were really starting to treat him not like a rookie quarterback, and they were starting to treat him like somebody who's been around before. And you could kind of see the little bit of confusion from time to time when he was dropping back. But the defense was just not big enough in the moments we needed him to be big. No pass rush, terrible on 3rd downs. First game, though, under 8 penalties. Just sucks. It happens in a loss. So, Jeff, week 5?
Yeah, we had the Titans. And I don't think this is a game that the Colts ever didn't have a lead. It was a close game, but a touchdown game. But this is where Richardson had that season-ending shoulder injury. And I mean, he looked good for the time that he was in. Gardner Minshew came in and looked really solid as well. But Moss was pretty much the star of the day. And I think I've mentioned him just about every week except week 1 where he had a great day. But he absolutely went off to over 7 yards per attempt and 2 touchdowns. This is, I believe, Josh Downs' kind of breakout game. He almost had 100 yards. Defensively, they didn't really get too many. I think they had 1 or 2 sacks. I'll let him talk about Tannehill. He even looked good, but the Colts did a really good job against the rush. I think they even shut down a kind of a final attempt for Derrick Henry to pick up on a 4th down. I believe it was Franklin they got in there to shut it down. So it was a pretty good defensive day, and really efficient offensively, except with especially. So
okay, Blake,
good game.
Yeah, it was just a lackluster game for the Titans offense. I mean, Henry couldn't do anything. Couldn't follow up the great game against Cincinnati. this is the game that DeAndre Hopkins did pop off. I think he had like 140 yards. So that was nice to see. At that point, I was like, all right, he's definitely not Julio Jones. Like this guy's been contributing every single week, and then he just like put up D-Hop numbers. Still no touchdowns underneath Tannehill. But yeah, at this point, it's just a rough time.
Yeah. Isaiah, week 5.
Yeah, so week 5, we had the Bills. We handled business with the Bills, honestly. We had some garbage time yards for Josh Allen. We were beating the shit out of them all game. Offense didn't look amazing, mainly because we took our foot off the gas whenever we were up. And our defense just honestly, I think this is kind of the first week where it really started a trend of just I don't know. I was just sitting back, and we get up by a touchdown, and then we sit back and just like play prevent the whole game. I mean, it's just ridiculous. We've got athletes on this team that can get after guys, especially in the passing game. So I mean, that was kind of the start of a trend where people just, we just sit back and wait and let people get back in the game when we shouldn't. Overall, though, we handled the Bills pretty good.
Okay, go ahead and lead off with week 6.
Yeah, I mean, week 6 beat the Colts again, almost the same score. Kind of got ahead early. And make sure I'm not saying nothing false. Yes, they got the field goal first. That's what it was. They got 3 points, and then from there we never lost the lead again. We never really looked back. Just one of those games where the whole team looked good. The defense looked good. They had some late stuff because Gardner Minshew he threw 55 times. So if a quarterback is 329 yards on 55 throws, I'm not really worried about that. It's about 6 yards per. I mean, I don't know, man. Those kind of one of the Zach Moss's worst games, and Jonathan Taylor. Jacksonville had him bottled up all game. Minshew had a lot of passes. I know Moss got a touchdown, and he slipped into the end zone late. But yeah, it was just honestly a big game for Jacksonville. ETN, I mean, he looked decent. 3 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence really didn't have to do much. He threw 30 passes, completed 20 of them, 181 yards and 2 touchdowns with an interception. Just honestly, just an all-around solid game for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Jeff?
Yeah, kind of the opposite. I think this is a game where Gardner Minshew was completely erratic. It seemed like almost every time the Colts were driving, especially until like the fourth quarter, that drive ended in an interception. It was pretty abysmal. I mean, like he was saying, 329 yards is pretty good. Not when you pass it 55 times though.
Did he
Colts
throw
run game?
3 picks? Yeah,
he threw 3 picks. Moss, they didn't really even run the ball at all in this game. And when they did, it didn't do squat. The only really bright side was Michael Pittman had over 100 yards.
Always does.
Downs, I think Downs got his first touchdown this week, if I'm not mistaken. Brent's got his first interception. But other than that, it was a rough week. Again, it was kind of one of those. At least the Colts didn't lay down and take the whoop, and they kind of made it interesting in the fourth. But it was too little, too late kind of thing.
The kind of heart you want to see out of a team. Week 6, Blake.
Week 6. This is a game across the pond. We're going to the Jacksonville Jaguars' second home stadium, and we're playing the Baltimore Ravens. Titans are going to lose the exact same way as they did the previous week, scoring the exact same amount of points. Tannehill doesn't do anything. Henry doesn't do anything. And this is the game that Tannehill is going to get hurt. Malik Willis is the backup quarterback. Will Levis is the emergency quarterback. So Malik Willis is going to finish this game out. Spoiler alert, he didn't do so well. So it just ended the game with a loss. And then we have to fly back from England, disappointed. And this was a game that drew a lot of criticism too, because we didn't even practice in England very long. We literally just got there, I think 2 days before the game. And Vrabel and Amy Adams got a lot of criticism for that, especially after they lost because, they weren't acclimated to the time change and all that stuff. So it was a weird week. And then, which was even worse, just because we went on a bye after that.
Yeah. Week 6, Houston plays the New Orleans Saints in Houston, picking up their third win of the season, 20-13. Defense stepped up pretty large, 2 sacks, 1 fumble, 1 pick. Stroud's first interception as a pro. Again, bad on third downs. I have written down an ugly win, and Motor outpaces Pierce for the second time. Second game in a row under 8 penalties. Yeah, I mean, this was a defensive game through and through. Stroud was able to do some things, but for the most part, the Saints had some pretty good answers for everything Slowick was throwing out there. And going into the bye week, week 7, with a 3-3 record, we got to watch Carolina do some things. Blake already said he was on bye week 7. What y'all doing week 7, Isaiah?
Week 7, we played the Steelers. I mean, just a shitty game. I mean, no, I'm sorry. Week 7, Saints, not Steelers. Steelers are next week. Yeah, so played the Saints. Not much to really say about it. I mean, besides the fact that we just continued the trend of allowing teams to get back into the game when our defense just, I mean, I don't get it. It's a stupid trend in the NFL right now to just sit back and wait and let teams come back into games they should never be in. ETN had a big game. I think he had 2 or 3 touchdowns in that game. Trevor Lawrence was coming off of a knee injury. He had it wrapped up and played. He actually had a decent bit of rushing yards and kept us in that game early, got us up. But honestly, just, again, a poor performance on the defensive side late in the game because we just sat back and let them get back into it when they never should have been there.
Yeah. Jeff?
Yeah, this was a game that the Colts didn't lose. It was the Cleveland Browns game, and I had a feeling when this game happened that how this game ended was going to come back and bite them in the ass, and it did. And normally I can't. You could always make the argument that the refs, don't put yourself in a position. But a lot of games this year were very close, and there's been some questionable shit. And that last drive was just absolutely horribly officiated. The Colts had a fumble recovery that was called on some like nonsense holding or something on a corner that wasn't, and then pass interference on an uncatchable pass. It was just absolutely abysmal. The Colts played more than well enough to win the game. Minshew was very efficient. I mean, he had 23 attempts and 300 yards, so there was a ton of huge plays. Jonathan Taylor kind of had his almost back to form game. Both he and Moss had 18 carries, and they combined for over 120 yards. It was just, and even Minshew ran for 2 touchdowns. I mean, this was just an all-around solid game that they shouldn't have lost. It was kind of, I don't want to say the low, putting up 38 points can't be a low point, but it was definitely one of the more frustrating games of the year.
Okay. Go ahead and stick on week 8.
Let me see. Sorry. There it is. They had the Saints. Yeah, I don't want to talk about this one either. Yeah, Colts lost this one by 11. They let the Saints drop 38 on them. It was a rough game. I feel like this was probably the only game where Derek Carr looked good. And they let him go for over 300 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Taysom Hill, they had no answer for him on the ground. He ran for a couple of touchdowns. Even Kamara, I mean, his average wasn't great, but still, the whole rushing attack, just they couldn't do anything against it. They even let, I can't really pronounce his name, Shaheed, kind of go off on him. Huge plays, 3 catches for 150 yards. Just secondary had no answer here. Jonathan Taylor had a good game with 95 yards. Zach Moss had another great game with 66 and a touchdown. Just not enough firepower, and it was a very close game at halftime. And they just let the Saints pull away with it.
Yeah. All right. Blake, week 8.
Titans to win the Super Bowl. That's what I said after that game. Titans, we hosted the Atlanta Falcons. We were wearing our Oilers jerseys for the first time since 2009, 2010. Will Levis's first start, throws 4 touchdowns. Dude lights it up. dude's football Jesus. Titans are going to win every single game rest of the year, and they will be playing in February. Didn't happen, but that's what I was saying all week. Great game, firing on all cylinders. D-Hop had no touchdowns under Tannehill or Malik Willis and caught like 3 of them that game. Absolutely amazing. Will Levis, QB1. Great game.
Okay.
Couldn't be happier.
Isaiah, week 8.
Yeah, we played the Steelers. Pickens looked terrible. He got locked up all game. Deontay Johnson has bricks for hands. Defense was solid, but not great. Offense didn't look good at all. I mean, it was just a week where we just outlasted them, honestly. Wasn't like we did anything particularly well. We just outlasted the other team. Adam Gotsis slammed Kenny Pickett and I think fucked up his ribs in that game. Mitch Trubisky. Mitch the bitch came in. And he did not lead them to the promised land. He was still better than Pickett because that's not very hard. But it was just it was a good game. I think TJ Watt got 1 sack, maybe couple of pressures. They really didn't do anything great on defense. And then of course the narrative that Steelers fans have that Joey Porter Jr. locked up the Jaguars, Calvin Ridley. Yeah, they only threw to Calvin Ridley 2 times while he was one-on-one with him, and he averaged 10 yards a catch on the 2 catches. So 20 yards on 2 catches is pretty solid against your number 1 corner. Not to mention the other 2 that he was credited with were zone coverage, and it was not even in his zone. So maybe don't just scoreboard watch and understand football, and that you might get further in life. But yeah, no, honestly, I was still all in on the Jags at this point. I was like, hey, we had a down game, but we've looked pretty good. And yeah, I mean that's really it for me on that week.
Yeah, week 8 for Houston didn't go so well. That's when we played Carolina. We lose this game 15-13. If I'm not mistaken, one of Carolina's only wins of the season, if not their only one. Offense looked anemic. Bobby Slowick had a terrible game plan where he just kept trying to run the ball with little to no effect. 119 pass yards, 229 total, 2 rushing touchdowns, and 10 penalties. The defense came to play at least with 6 sacks of Bryce Young and 224 total yards allowed. And we clogged the run game at an elite level. If I'm not mistaken, it was like 3 yards a carry or less. And that's pretty solid for a team that not too long ago was getting mollywopped every time somebody ran the ball. Week 9, Houston played Tampa Bay in Houston. This was an electric game, 39-37, with an electrifying go-ahead score with 40 some odd seconds left. Or drive orchestrated with somebody for 40 some odd seconds left. 496 total yards, 443 through the air, 5 passing touchdowns for CJ Stroud, no interceptions. Running game non-existent. 3 for 11 on third downs. Defense not too terrible. 2 sacks, 322 total yards, 1 fumble. Defense solid against the run. And Stroud begins to build even more onto that mythos, even with 9 penalties called on the Texans for 110 yards. Week 9, Blake?
This is a short week. Tennessee had the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we were going against what's his face, Kenny Pickett. And again, yeah, you mentioned him earlier, man. He's just not him. He's not very good. So I was pretty confident Tennessee was going to win this game, especially with Will Levis having the greatest moment for rookie quarterback ever. Is incredible. He flew kind of like he did fine. He threw like 260 yards, and he looked really good. It was just couldn't get in the end zone. Bad play calling. It was just kind of a rough game. We couldn't score a whole lot of points. 16 again, like the 3rd or 4th time this year. We're gonna end up losing, man. It was a rough game in Pittsburgh. We always struggle against Tomlin. I think Vrabel, we play him basically every year, and he's only beat him once. So it was a rough day for Titans fan.
Yeah.
The high of we're winning the Super Bowl is sort of died a little bit.
It was a quick high. It was
great.
there.
1 week. Actually, 4 days. It was a short week.
Week 9, Isaiah.
Unlike me, this week was bye. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. Jeff, week 9.
Oh yeah, this was the another get right game for the Colts. It was their ass whooping that they put on the Panthers. They couldn't wasn't a whole lot going on in the passing game or the running game, and it didn't matter. I mean, Minshew completed 17 passes to 5 different receivers, and 13 of those passes went to Pittman and Taylor. It wasn't a great game offensively, but I believe this was the game of the 2 pick sixes for Kenny Moore, so they didn't need a whole lot. I think they picked off Bryce Young 3 times in total, and he had 39 attempts for 173 yards, and I'll take that any game.
Feel that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, stick with it.
Really, really good defensive game.
Yeah, stick with it. Go week 10.
It was the Colts and the Patriots. It was a defensive battle. It was one of those classic boring Bill Belichick games, and the Colts got the better of it, winning narrowly 10-6. Neither offense looked really great in particular. Taylor looked okay with 69 yards and a touchdown. Mac Jones, I believe they pulled him because he looked so awful. They did a little bit better on the ground with Stevenson, who had 88 yards, but all they could muster up was a couple of field goals. So it was a really good showing, at least by the Colts defense in this one. And the offense did just enough to win. But I mean, I'll take a victory over the Patriots any day.
Yeah, no, I feel that. Isaiah, week 10.
Yeah, week 10. We got fucked by the 49ers, but we broke the McCaffrey anytime touchdown streak. That's all I have to say about that game. We look fucking terrible.
Yeah, wasn't it like 30-something to 3?
34-7, 34-3, 34-0. I mean, it might as well have been 60-0. Yeah, 34-3.
Okay. Blake, week 10.
Baker, Reagan, Mayfield, man. He killed us. It was a rough day. Baker Mayfield was slinging it. I was like, oh, man, maybe we'll stop Baker Mayfield because he's just Baker Mayfield. He was playing scout team defense for the Carolina Panthers the year before. Surely we'll win. It'll be a get-right game. Will Levis will drop 350, 6 touchdowns. It didn't work that way. He threw no touchdowns. And it was a 20-6 game. It was bad. Titans suck. The only bright side at that time was it looked like Will Levis and Kyle Phillips had a real connection because he led the team receiving 2 weeks straight. So that was a little bit of bright side coming out of a horrible game.
Okay.
Was it the Saints game that I guessed the score right? It was earlier in the season because we didn't win a lot of games in the end. Or was it no, I think it was the Titans because I was at that game, 34-14.
Yeah.
That's next week. My bad, Shotty.
Week 10, Houston traveled up to Cincinnati to play the Joe Burrow-led Bengals, where the Houston Texans offense was on fire. 544 total yards, 356 in the air. Devin Singletary's first 100-yard game. He goes for 30 rushes, 150 on the ground, couple touchdowns. Defense shut down the run game pretty effectively. Burrow had a solid day, 314. He was sacked 4 times and threw 2 interceptions. Noah Brown, for the second consecutive week, goes over 150 receiving yards and 7 penalties in this game. Houston ends up winning by a final mark 30-27 in what was an offensive shootout just like the week before. And this is when people started calling the Texans the cardiac Texans because every game was coming down to the wire. Let's go to week 11. Houston gets another win, their 3rd in a row.
The rest of us don't get to talk about week 10?
What?
You just skipped over the rest of us.
I talked about it. Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
That was week 9, wasn't it?
No. Because you
Let's
just
talk
said
about
the
the
stuff about the
49ers.
49ers, yeah.
Yeah, this is week 9. Was it not?
I don't know. Week 10. Let's go.
Jag Saints, Jag Steelers was week 8. Bye week 9. Jags 49 week. Wait.
Yep,
You're right. I'm on a different page.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. Week 11. Woo!
Week 11, Houston has Arizona travel to H-Town, where the Houston picks up a 21-16 win over a struggling, now Kyler Murray-led Arizona Cardinals team.
Kyler Murray.
419 total yards, 308 passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing. Rush defense was awful, allowing 123 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown. Pass defense was pretty solid. No passing touchdowns allowed, sub 200 yards, 1 interception. Stroud throws 3 interceptions in this game, and Singletary goes over 110 yards on the ground. This is now the 3rd game all season under 7 penalties. Week 11, Blake.
Week 11, I realized at this point we were not winning the Super Bowl. Giants are going to get dominated.
I knew that in the preseason.
34-14. The team does absolutely nothing. Derrick Henry's nowhere to be found. I thought he usually goes in Jacksonville, just lights him up for just for Yuli. But yeah, it was a rough game. I mean, Chris Moore led the team in rushing. He's our wide receiver 3. I mean, it was terrible. Absolutely nothing. I don't even remember this game. I think I was drinking a lot, probably. Hopefully.
Isaiah, week 11.
I, however, remember this game very well.
There you go.
I was there. I sent some nice, pretty pictures over to you guys because I saw,
you did. I do remember
all
that.
the big burly men for the Titans D line because I'm in that end zone that they practice in. It was a good game for Jacksonville. Nice team win. At the end of the day, they look pretty solid, but I mean, clearly that was not the route we decided to take the rest of the year. But I did predict the score on this one, 34-14. I was at the game with my cousin-in-law. It was a good time. Shout out Cody. Thanks for going with me. He bought a jersey while we were there. That was pretty cool. He got like the salute to service one, and so that was nice. It was overall a good game. I enjoyed it. I was glad I could kind of get some nice pictures for you guys. At least I know because how close do y'all normally sit to the field when y'all go to like Titans games and stuff?
It just depends. It just depends on if I'm buying my tickets or if somebody's just like, "Hey, man, I've got these."
That's true. I didn't think about that, but had a good time. Good win for Jacksonville, and still had confidence at this point, kind of, but it was definitely slipping.
Yeah. Week 11, Jeff.
Bye.
Oh, I didn't know you swung both ways. All right, let's go to week 12. Houston plays Jacksonville in Houston and takes the loss 24-21. Had a better day, arguably, against the run. 445 total yards, 364 passing. Just not the kind of bottling that the defense led by DeMeco Ryans in San Francisco was able to do. This was a game that we kind of needed to win, and it kind of showed later on when week 18 we had to play the Colts for all the marbles, so to speak, and it turned out to be all the marbles. 352 total yards, 261 pass yards, 2 touchdowns for CJ Stroud. Pass pro was bad at times. 4 sacks, no running game to speak of. Devin Singletary had 54 yards receiving, and Nico Collins eclipsed the 100-yard mark and had a touchdown. 7 penalties for the Texans this game. Isaiah?
Yeah, I mean it was kind of a shootout. I mean, I would say a low-scoring shootout in a sense. But it was just one of those games where I didn't really know who was going to win. We did bottle up the run pretty well, but like Curtis just said, we kind of let the backfields come out of our backfields. Jesus Christ, kind of let the running backs come out of the backfield and get some yardage on us. It was just another one of those games where we kind of relied on the defense to get us through it. Josh Allen, he's the POG player of the game. Player of the game. He had a solid day. I think 2.5 sacks. Trayvon was in on one of them, so he got a half sack. One of the sacks was late in the game and kind of set us up to win that one with a big sack on CJ Stroud late. I think you guys had lost Tank Dell at this point, right?
No, I think we lost him.
I thought it was right before this game.
No, I think he might have missed this game because he did miss a couple, and then he came back. But
yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, he got hurt against the Jets or the Broncos.
Gotcha. I mean, either way, I think if they have Tank Dell in this game, or at least a healthy Tank Dell, it looks like he actually did play in this one. 5 catches, 50 yards, touchdown. I don't know. It just kind of seemed like we bottled him up. Nico Collins had a big game. I did not realize Tank Dell played because the last time we played him, the first time we played him, he absolutely killed us. But yeah, I mean, it just overall a decent game from Jacksonville, but it was kind of one of those ones where, if Texans got one more drive, they probably win that game. I mean, it was definitely a close one. And, we got lucky that there was a play or two where Josh Allen or somebody else got through pretty much untouched or pretty quickly to get him.
Yeah. Week 12. Anybody not talked about week 12 yet?
My bad. Jesus.
Titans had Carolina, and this is a game, Bryce Young's terrible. It was an interesting matchup just to have 2 rookie quarterbacks going head-to-head. And this one, Titans had to have won to get any kind of momentum going. And the Titans did, but it was such a bad game. Titans were so close to losing it. So they're going to squeak away at home 17-10 against Carolina.
Okay. Jeff, have you talked week 12 yet?
No. The Colts hosted the Buccaneers, and they beat them by 7. I think this is the game where they got ahead and never looked back. Minshew was okay, 250, no touchdowns, threw a pick. Jonathan Taylor kind of had a return to form, 91 yards, 6 average, 2 touchdowns. Pittman went off for another 100 yards. And I think the Colts defense racked up 5 or 6 sacks on Baker. So it was a pretty good defensive day. I was really, really concerned about Evans. The yardage-wise, not a whole lot, but he did have 2 touchdowns. So overall, I mean, despite that, I feel like they did good on one of the premier receivers in the league. They kind of held Baker Mayfield in check. So it was a good team win. It was a good game. It was a good week.
Okay. Week 13. Houston had Denver travel to town, and Russell Wilson throws 3 interceptions. 22-17 final score. Houston gets the dub. Defense holds up pretty solid. 282 total yards, 1 pass touchdown, 1 rush. The rush defense was pretty porous. No running game on offense at all. 3 sacks by the D line. 2 interceptions on the day by Derek Stingley. 4 of 16 on third down, and 8 penalties. If we're noticing a trend here, the third down conversion rates in this system are extremely low. Week 13, Isaiah?
Yeah, week 13, Bengals came to town. I missed this game. I'm glad I did. It was a shootout with a team that it shouldn't have been a shootout with, considering they had their backup quarterback in. I'm not saying he is, but Joe Burrow might be a system quarterback. That's all I'm saying. He's always, he's always had the best receiving core and a great O-line besides his first year. But great receiving core though. Just saying. If a backup that was undrafted, that's been in the league for a couple years, never got a shot, can come in and play like that, he's either got that dog in him, or maybe the quarterback that was playing isn't as good as we think he is. But still, Trevor Lawrence played really well, actually. He was 22 of 29, 258, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks going into his injury. He got injured late in the game, and I think really that kind of took us out of it. CJ Stroud, I mean, honestly, Stroud, or not CJ Stroud, CJ Beathard. CJ Beathard came in. He actually played pretty well, 9 of 10, 63 yards. Controversial holding call at on the last play where he threw the ball up to Ridley. And Ridley actually caught it at the 1 or a touchdown. Basically not the last play, but the second to last play. Controversial call. The dude flopped and they gave him the holding. At the end of the day, it is what it is. We shouldn't have been in that situation. We shouldn't have put ourselves there to be in a shootout with a team with a backup quarterback. But at the end of the day, Sam Browning, I think his name Sam Browning?
Jake
Browning. Jeez. Jake Browning, he wanted it more than we did apparently, and he played a great game. Props to him for coming in and leading that team. But we've got to be better than that in the future. We had no defense whatsoever in that game.
Week 13, Jeff.
Colts traveled to Tennessee and picked up an overtime win. Derrick Henry had a really great game. Colts couldn't do jack squat against the run. Fortunately, Minshew had probably one of the better games of the season, putting up over 300, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Moss couldn't really get much on the ground, but we had 2 100-yard receivers in Pittman and Pierce. I think it was Alec Pierce's first 100-yard game. I could be mistaken, but he did have 100 yards. They both got a touchdown. They sacked, I believe, Levis for like 5 or 6 times in this game too. So they're defense really getting after it, but I think it was special teams in this one where they blocked a punt for a touchdown, and I think this is unfortunately where Stonehouse got hurt. Overall, this is another one of those complete, team wins where everything was clicking kind of the way it needed to for them.
Yeah. Blake?
Yeah, that was a rough day. The biggest takeaway was just Stonehouse dying. Rest in peace, man. Yeah, there was 2 blocked ones, and it was a bad day. The special teams was so bad that Craig Ackerman got fired, our special teams coach, and he was with the team for a very long time. He came over from the San Diego Chargers, so he had been with the Titans for a very long time. And I'm glad I can actually use that, and it was correct. It was a rough day at this point. The Titans, we were basically done. There was a lot of chatter about, are we going to fire Mike Vrabel? Is Derrick Henry done here? What are we doing? Should we tank and get Marvin Harrison Jr.? Do we tank and get the best tackle? Times were pretty bad, and I had lost a bet after this game too because the Colts swept the Titans. I had to wear a Colts jersey to work. So, yeah. That was great.
All right, go ahead. Go with week 14, Blake.
Week 14, Titans are back. We're going to win the Super Bowl. Forget everything I said the previous weeks. It was great. We beat the Miami Dolphins. That was such an up and down game. That was a roller coaster of emotions. Tyreek Hill got hurt, luckily for the Titans because they were able to kind of hang around the game. At the very end, toward the end of that game, I was cleaning up around the house. I was kind of getting ready for work because it was over with. And we just came back with a miraculous comeback. Will Levis just dominated. Titans are back. Couldn't have been happier. That game and the Atlanta Falcons game were the best games of the year by far.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. By the way, the jersey has been shipped.
Let's go.
Yeah.
They took a while, but DH Gate has finally shipped the jersey. So,
hey, they always come through. That's how I got my Stonehouse, and rest in peace, Stonehouse.
Yeah, hopefully hopefully I get a good one. I've seen some of them that people get, but most of the ones I've seen have been really good. So, yeah, we'll see.
I'm 1 for 1, so I like mine.
Yep, I got the. Oh, my bad.
Go ahead. You're good.
I was gonna say I was able to get the Oilers Will Levis jersey. That was the only way I was getting one, if I can get in the Oilers, and I sure did. Yeah. So
that a boy,
yeah,
man of his word. Can't take that from him.
Unfortunately, no, I'm kidding.
Week 14, Houston travels up to the New York Jets and gets mollywopped 30-6 in a poor weather game. where the entire team musters up 135 total yards. Defense looked awful. This was a game where we were almost joking around in the preview about how Zach Wilson could have like a career resurgence day against the Texans.
Whoa. You guys, I was not joking. I was serious.
Well, it's Zach Wilson. It's a joke regardless. But
Not to me.
defense looked awful. 347 total yards, 268 in the pass. Run defense looked better, but not at all great. Pass rush was solid, 4 sacks. 1 of 12 on third down. This is the game Stroud gets hurt and misses the next couple because of his very severe concussion. 4 penalties called on the Texans. They are now 7-6 at the time of this game is over. And just an ugly performance all the way around. This game was literally in pissing rain. Like it was bad. Week 14, who else?
I mean, if you want to talk about piss poor games, we can talk about the Colts and Bengals. It was tied at halftime, and by the end of the game, it was 34-14. So the Colts got shut out of three or four quarters in the game. It just nothing going on the ground. They rushed for less than 50 yards. It's probably Zach Moss's worst game, averaging just over 2 yards. There's been a running theme here of Pittman at 100 or almost. He's a guy you resign. I'm just saying. Even in abysmal games, he still puts up almost 100 yards. So,
yeah.
Moving on. But they let Jake Browning complete 75% of his passes. They let him, get almost 300 yards, couple of touchdowns. They couldn't do much against the run. It was rough, man.
Yeah.
I don't think they got any sacks on him. It was probably one of the few weeks where I never felt the Colts were actually in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Texans got it easy, honestly, playing Joe Burrow. Unfortunately, the Colts and the Jaguars both had to play the elite quarterback of Jake Browning.
The other JB. Week 14, Isaiah.
Shootout with the Browns. Joe Flacco, 8. We had broken coverage all game. We looked like we were just like, hey, guys, don't cover the tight end. And they were just like, okay. And Njoku killed us. He had 1 touchdown for it was like 30, 40, 50, 60 yards. For literally no one was within 20 yards of him. That was like first, that was like second or third play of the game. It was ridiculous. It's just a poor performance by our defense. They decided to buck up late, and our offense just couldn't get it done. Myles Garrett wreaked havoc like he does. Anton Harrison, this is just another solid elite, whatever you want to call whoever we've played so far in the season, just another elite pass rusher he had to go up against in his rookie season. And the kid gave up, 27 pressures and 6 sacks on the year. It's pretty impressive for a guy who came out as a left tackle, got transitioned to right tackle. Just another one for him. Big gauntlet this year of people to go up against. But just overall, they beat the shit out of us. Honestly, we were a lot closer than we should have been.
Okay. Week 14, Blake.
This was a home game for the Titans hosting the Houston Texans, wearing the Oilers jerseys, an attempt to troll them. But it's hard to troll a team when your team sucks. When your team sucks, you're trying to troll. It just doesn't work out very well, just like the Titans.
Is this week 14 or 15?
14. I've already done 14. Sorry, this is 15.
Oh, yeah, then go on with 15.
We finally beat Houston. We played Houston, and we're going to lose this game. Offense can do absolutely anything. This game goes to overtime. It almost looks like a tie. And Will Levis is going to get hurt at the very end, and then Tannehill's going to come in, and we just can't really do anything. It ends up going to the very end of the game, and then Kyrie Fairbairn kicks a field goal, and the Titans leave disappointed.
Yeah. This was Keenum's first start for the Texans in almost a decade. This was Devin Singletary's probably hang your hat on this game because he was basically the do-it-all for the Texans this week. 340 total yards for the Texans, 204 for the Titans, 1 passing touchdown, and then 4 field goals for the Houston Texans. The defense was hot with 7 sacks, 1 interception, and they ate Derrick Henry for lunch. One of the first player in NFL history to have 20 touches and 10 yards.
Yeah, under 10. He had 9 yards.
Yeah. 8 penalties, still 4 for 15 on third down. The Houston Texans were quite fallible this game, and if it's not for Dalton Schultz's stealing the ball away from whoever the guy was in coverage.
That was McCreary, Roger McCreary, second-year player at Auburn.
If not for that play, the Texans probably don't win this game. So a little bit of magic on that end, but still a solid game all the way around. We were both in attendance for it, and I think that was the game. You got to go on the field on that one, didn't you?
Yeah, I was on the field when Billy White Shoes Johnson got inducted to the Ring of Honor.
Hell yeah.
Yep, held the flag.
That a boy. Week 15, Isaiah.
Just a terrible game. Jacksonville didn't look good. Trevor Lawrence drove us down into the territory multiple times. We just couldn't convert anything. We kept going for it instead of kicking field goals. Unfortunately, that's just the way the NFL is going nowadays. We just didn't get anything anytime we got across the 50-yard line. So, end of the day, unacceptable performance. Defense sucked. Offense couldn't move the ball very well, and when they did, they didn't get anything out of it. So, honestly, just not a great game.
Yeah. All right. Jeff, week 15, and then you can lead into 16 as well.
All right. It was a great game, home game against the Steelers. Beat the living snot out of them, 30-13. Steelers took an early lead. Colts got it. It was 1-point game at halftime, and the Colts just shut them out in the second half. Minshew had a really good game. Didn't light it up in the yardage total, but had 3 touchdowns. Trey Sermon had a great day on the ground. I want to say this might have been the game where, I don't know if Zach Moss got hurt or what, but he only had 4 carries. Either way, Trey Sermon came in with 88 yards. Tyler Goodson ran for 69 yards. Both averaged more than 5 yards. Pittman had another really good day, over 70 yards. And they got 3 or 4 sacks. Blackman had a pick. And I think they even brought in Mason Rudolph, because Mitch Trubisky looked like shit.
Yeah.
So, they couldn't get anything going on the ground. Najee Harris, 12 carries for 33 yards, which is pretty – it's better than half a yard per attempt, but still pretty abysmal. Overall, just a really good win for the Colts.
Okay. 16?
Oh, yeah, you got me leading into it. This is the game I didn't want to talk about.
Too bad.
It's the complete ass whooping the Falcons put on the Colts in Atlanta. Just, it was a tie game in the first quarter, and Atlanta pulled away and never looked back. Minshew, no touchdowns, threw a pick. Couldn't really get much going on the ground. Taylor did have a rushing touchdown, but this is the game where you really felt, because Pittman was out. I think it was that concussion that he had, and kind of thought he was going to play, and then when he flew to Atlanta, had those symptoms, so he wound up not playing. And his absence was very felt. The passing offense looked terrible. Minshew attempted 37 passes for just 200 yards, so it was just not a great day. They let Taylor Heineke kind of sit back and, I don't want to say dice him up, but just kind of do what he needed to. And Colts just didn't have an answer. They rushed for almost 200 yards, so it was pretty bad. Well, 150, but still pretty terrible all around.
Okay. Week 16, Isaiah?
Same thing. Bucks beat the shit out of Jacksonville. Bad week for us versus AFC or NFC. NFC South?
Yeah.
Just bad week Bucks beat the shit out of us. Baker Mayfield lit us up. We just had no answers. I didn't even watch this game. Didn't even try to watch this game. It was just bad.
All right. Week 16, Houston had Cleveland travel to town in the Deshaun Watson revenge game. And it wasn't close. This was a game that the Cleveland Browns put up a bunch of points early. This was the second game that CJ Stroud had missed due to injury. Case Keenum did not have any of the magic that he had against the Titans wearing those jerseys. This was a completely different beast altogether. The Browns defense was able to completely bottle up anything the Texans were trying to do. The run defense, however, lethal. 1.8 yards per carry was the average for the Cleveland Browns. Pass D was awful. Amari Cooper had 260 yards receiving and at least I'm pretty sure 3 touchdowns. Joe Flacco did throw 2 interceptions, had 3 touchdowns, 364 on the day, sacked 1 time, 5 for 15 on third down, 10 total penalties on the Texans. Final score 36-22 after Davis Mills plays cleanup late in the fourth quarter and scores 2 late touchdowns. This was a gross game in all meanings of the word. It was just not fun. It was just not fun. Blake, did you already do week 16?
No, this is the game where I believe the NFL is completely rigged. This is a must-win game for the Seattle Seahawks. Titans didn't really need this win. I mean, we were already out of the playoffs, and the Titans were winning most of this game. We were in command of this lead, and then Geno Smith just runs down the field like he's Joe Montana or Tom Brady in their prime, and then ends up winning the game right at the very end. And then Titans had one chance to kind of just get a 2-minute effort going, 2-minute drill going, and yeah, it just came up flat. It was a rough game. So Titans are going to end up losing to Seattle Seahawks 20-17.
Okay. Go ahead and let's talk week 17.
Oh, they get their asses kicked against Houston. We were trying to get our revenge game. Oh, Derrick Henry, he's going to make up for the first game. He's going to run 400 yards this time. Didn't happen. Titans just get absolutely murdered. Tannehill's quarterback, and it's just embarrassing.
Yeah, 26-3 was the final score of that game. I have written down team win. All three phases kind of outclassed Tennessee. 312 total yards, 201 passing, 1 touchdown. Motor has a solid day. The Texans offense didn't have to do a whole hell of a lot to win this game. The defense was playing so well that there was absolutely zero pressure on the offense to push the ball down the field. I'm pretty sure CJ Stroud didn't even attempt a pass longer than 15 yards. Regardless, 1 penalty on the Houston Texans. That's incredible coming off of the performance last week. Week 17, Isaiah.
I mean, we shut out the Panthers 26-0. I mean, not really. I mean, saying a little just because they had a really good defense this year, actually, despite all of the stuff. We didn't have like an exorbitant amount of yards, but Travis Etienne went for, I think, 63 yards and broke 2,000 yards in the same play for his career. So that was pretty cool. He had a pretty decent game. Just all around good team win. But yeah, I mean, nothing to really talk about. It's the Panthers. Bryce Young sucks dick. So, not really anything else to say about it.
Week 17, Jeff?
This was Colts hosted the Raiders, and they narrowly escaped with a victory. The Colts won 23-20. They let Aiden O'Connell just kind of sit back all day. I think they only got him, sacked him like twice. Let him pick him apart for 300 yards, and Devontae Adams went absolutely bonkers in this game. 13 catches, 126, and 2 touchdowns. It was just kind of a rough day for the Colts secondary. Luckily, Jonathan Taylor had almost 100 yards and a touchdown in this one. Alec Pierce had that big catch for 58. I think there were some big plays in this one with Pierce and Downs. So I mean, it was just a few explosive plays are what kept the Colts. I kind of won it for them. They didn't get any picks, didn't get a lot of pressure. It was just, I mean, it was a good game. It was an entertaining game throughout, but thankfully the Colts kind of escaped with the win in this one to keep their division hopes alive or to be crushed.
Speaking of getting crushed, dreams, week 18, Jeff.
Yeah, it's kind of a repeat of the previous year. Colts lost to the Texans by 4. It was a really good game throughout. This is probably the game that's freshest on the mind, unfortunately. Jonathan Taylor had almost 200 yards on the ground. And when he does that, there's not really any excuse to lose. Minshew did not look good most of the game. And completed just over 50% of his passes. I don't want to say he's the reason they lost this game. Kind of a lack of pressure. There was a lot of times where they had Stroud, 3rd and 20 or 2nd and 20, and they let up a big chunk play, and then the next thing they had a holding, and they did the same thing again. Throughout this game, they had a lot of opportunities. They sucked terribly on 3rd down. I think they were like 0 for, 11 or 12 at one point.
Yeah.
That's pretty much why they lost this game. But that last play where they put in, what was his name, Goodson, he's their 4th string back. And you dialed up his number. He has 6 receptions on the season. It's just, I don't even care if you're gonna give it to Taylor or Zach Moss or a third diversion or whatever. There's no reason for your new shiny, highly paid toy to be on the sideline when the season's on the line. So I think that was the biggest takeaway from this game was, it was thrown behind him. It was a bad pass by Minshew. It was the correct call. I mean, the play worked. It was just frustrating way to end what was a really good game.
Yeah. Yeah, from the other side, Houston could not stop Jonathan Taylor at all at any given point. There was like situational stops, like it'd be like a 3rd and 2 and they'd get it, like he'd get a yard. But like for the most part, it was like 10-yard gain, 7-yard gain, 15-yard gain, all game long. And like Jeff said, this is one of the most back and forth games we've had in a while. When Kaimi Fairbairn missed the extra point, I was like, shit, they're just going to score a touchdown, kick the extra point, win the game. But the defense showed up, and they were 1 for 11 on 3rd down the entire game, 1 fumble, 1 sack. Minshew looked lost at times. Nico Collins had a career day, 195 yards on 9 touchdowns, 1 touchdown, and 11 penalties called on the Texans. Week 18, Blake.
That was the spoiler game for the Titans. We finally won a game. A lot of people wanted us to lose this game so we can get a better draft pick. I was pretty neutral. I just wanted to watch good football, and good football happened. Derrick Henry, this was his game, man. He destroyed Jacksonville. He was dicing them up. We really were stopping Trevor Lawrence. Their offense couldn't get anything going. Titans were just kind of firing on all cylinders, man. That was a game where we thought we might score 30 points. We hadn't done it since the Bush administration. So we were really hopeful in that game. However, we fell short at 28. But, hey, we knocked Jacksonville out of the playoffs. So that was a win for me. I was very, very happy to end that game. Seemed like everyone was fired up. Derrick Henry, that was the one where he stayed after the field. He was talking to everybody. He was hanging out with the fans outside the stadium. He was thanking kitchen staff and everybody, the custodians and everybody at his press conference after the game. So it was a sad day. Last day ever seeing Derrick Henry as a Titan. Same like Tannehill and probably a lot of other guys. It's gonna be a brand new team.
Yeah.
So R.I.P. Henry.
Yeah. Isaiah.
Yeah. I mean, this was one that I kind of was iffy on. I thought we were gonna win, but at the end of the day, we were not playing good at this point in the season. Really didn't have too much hope. Honestly, I thought we were going to win going into the game, but the Titans clearly wanted it more than we did. And so, they went out there, they took it, got us out of the playoffs. Colts hung a banner. It's just one of those things where, unfortunately, we didn't get in. And
Jaguars eliminated.
Yep, Jaguars eliminated. It was like this. It was like Christmas for the Colts. But it's just one of those things where, unfortunately, we didn't want it enough. I'm kind of glad we didn't go to the playoffs, honestly. At the end of the day, it gives us a better draft pick, and we didn't deserve to be there. We would have got, we got the shit kicked out of us like some of those other teams got absolutely trounced in the playoffs. Pick 17. I say we go ahead and reach Jackson Powers Johnson, center out of Oregon. Let's get him. Let's put somebody in front of Trevor Lawrence. Isn't a little bitch like fucking Walker Little. The man's a professional athlete. He's like 6'5", and I can almost guarantee you, not Walker Little, Jesus Christ, pissed off at him too. Luke Fortner, I guarantee you, I could beat the shit out of Luke Fortner in a fight. The dude's a fucking pussy. You're getting pushed 6 yards in the backfield to lose the game for us. Trevor made the wrong call.
Tag him in this.
Luke Fortner, if you want to fight, I'll put on the gloves. If you win, I still won't shake your hand because you're a bitch. Honestly, I just you ask a player to get stronger and they lose weight in the offseason. You can't get stronger and lose weight as an offensive lineman.
Weight moves weight, son.
Weight moves weight. No matter,
I'd
rather him put 40 pounds on, because at least if he puts 40 pounds on, they're going to trip over him when they knock him down. Just unfortunately terrible and shitty way to end the season, but honestly, we didn't deserve it.
Yep. Well, as we all may remember, Houston was the only one to advance from this point. Wild card review, phenomenal team win against the Browns, 45-14. Stroud and co were hot, 280 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. They only attempted 8 third downs, which is incredible to me. Running game was still mid. Defense, 2 pick sixes to really seal it later in the second half, 4 sacks, and they shut down the Cleveland Browns running game. 3 penalties called on the Texans all game, huge. Following that up in the divisional game, closing the season out the way they started the season against the Baltimore Ravens, they fall 34-10. First half, the teams looked almost even. I wouldn't say necessarily even, but I would say the teams looked like they were, definitely in some deep competition. The special teams kickoff return by Steven Sims helped a lot. It was the only score of the day for the Texans that wasn't a field goal. And then the second half, they just couldn't do anything right. The run game could not be stopped by our Texans defense. Lamar Jackson was able to do what he wanted on the ground, and he was efficient enough in the passing game to make third downs into first downs. 3 sacks, 213 total yards, no run game, 11 penalties on the Houston Texans. And that's the season review, folks. That is all of it, all right? So with that being said, from each of us, one thing that we could change going into next season, what is it? For me, I need like 3 Sheldon Rankins. I need 3 of those dudes playing defensive interior. Like Malik Collins did all right at times, but when Sheldon Rankins was not in the game, they were not able to stop the run at all. And towards the end of the season, that became more and more pronounced. The game against Derrick Henry, we had Malik Collins and Sheldon Rankins, and they were able to eat him alive. So I don't know if that necessarily means bring back Rankins, draft somebody, sign another dude, but I basically want an entire new defensive interior room. Edge rushers were solid, but, we went through 6 of them. So we need some not as old dudes. Jerry Hughes is set to be a free agent. So defensive line, I think if we can stop the run game for a couple of these games, the Ravens, the Colts game in Week 18, we're talking about a completely different outcome. So with that, what is one thing you guys would change going into the offseason? Just one thing.
I think I kind of already said mine very loudly and expressively.
You did.
Walker Little.
Luke Fortner.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah. Jeff?
I'm gonna have to go with the. I mean, I can't. I guess the defense is too broad of a statement. If he's going to keep running this the scheme that he has, I think he needs better players in the secondary. I mean, I love Juju Brents, but outside of that, corner and safety help, man. He's not bringing a lot of pressure, so we're going to need someone that can stick on these receivers a little bit better.
Okay. Blake?
Everything's changing. So I'm going to stick with a few things that, in theory, should stay with people that are under contract. And I think one addition by subtraction would be trading Treylon Burks anywhere. There's been conversations about trading him for a third. If we can take a third, I will take that all day, every day. Especially considering the Tennessee Titans do not have a third-round pick because we traded up with the Cardinals to nab Will Levis in the second round.
If you get a third, he's worth as much as Buckner, so we're good.
If we can get Treylon Burks for a third, I'll take that all day. If we can get him for a sixth, I'll take that all day. I just wanted us out of here. I feel like he's toxic with the entire team basically just being gutted. It's going to be a brand new team. Like, it's so strange. Like, even looking back at our recap, like, every one of those dudes I was talking about, they're all going to be gone.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we wrap up here, let's talk about some team-specific news. I'll go first. Long snapper John Weeks has had a 1-year contract extension. Continuing, he has played every preseason and regular season game since 2010. So, that's fun. Anything going on in the Jags neck of the woods?
Not too much. Just looking to fill Ryan Nielsen's staff. Trent Baalke, Baalke it up. He's at the combine, Jesus Christ. He's at the Senior Bowl right now, about 54, 55 minutes from where I live. I would love to go see Trent Baalke and get hired onto his staff and really tell him how to run that organization. But unfortunately, I know too much and I'm too smart with the very mid-level of football knowledge I have. I don't know, man. It's just one of those things where, like, last year we had Tank Dell sitting right there running all these routes, just destroying everybody at the Senior Bowl. And we didn't take him. We just let him slide multiple times. You guys got him. It's one of those things where we've gone to the Senior Bowl. We've seen the people we draft that we've seen at the Senior Bowl have not turned out for us, or they're just very developmental pieces. Honestly, I think JPJ he's a generational talent center, in my opinion. I think he's the best since Linderbaum. And honestly, I was kind of blinded by Luke Fortner because he didn't give up a lot of sacks last year and he wasn't really pushed around as much. He's definitely pushed around. But I really hope that they're over there scouting and that's who they're looking at right now because we need something.
Okay. Jeff, any news in Colts Nation?
Gardner Minshew made the Pro Bowl. Other than that, they haven't really released a whole lot about Jim Irsay's health. I hope that it's nothing too bad. But if they're being kind of hush up about it until the Super Bowl, it could be a thing too. So speculation's kind of running crazy, but hope he's doing okay. I mean, say what you want about him, but you don't want to see that.
Yeah. Is somebody moving several desks?
Yeah, she's good.
Okay.
Cheers.
All right. Jeff, thank you. Blake, we know that there's been some news in the Titans franchise, so let's talk about your new head coach.
Yeah, I'm glad. He was my number one target. I wanted Brian Callahan from the jump. He was one of those people, like, when they're talking about, like, week 8, week 9, the Titans were done and Vrabel would get cut. I was like, I don't think he'd get cut. I didn't want Vrabel to be gone, but I was like, if he were to be gone, Brian Callahan's my dude. I'm so glad we got Brian Callahan. Not only just because of him in general. I like a lot of things about him. Also, the fact dude used to be a high school teacher, so shout out for that. he also signed literally an hour ago. His dad is now going to be the new offensive line coach. We poached him from the Browns, so his staff is looking good. We got Denard Wilson, the DB's coach for the Ravens, as our new defensive coordinator. The staff is pretty much rounding out. There was a wide receiver coach. I can't remember his name. He's the only one. I've never heard of him. But from a lot of like Titans fans that I trust and other fans in the NFL, they weren't super impressed with the guy. We'll see. He was the Bears wide receiver coach last year. I mean, that was a terrible team, but we'll see. As long as you got good players, I mean, surely you'll upgrade from Treylon Burks, Kyle Phillips, and Nick Westbrook this year, at least in theory. One of the big reasons I love Callahan too is he might poach off a former Bengals wide receiver in T. Higgins. T. Higgins is Titans fans from Tennessee. No state income tax in Tennessee. He can make his millions and keep his millions here. So I'm just excited for this. I think it's going to be a team that's going to be more pass first. A team that can actually score 30 points. A team that can go in shootouts. A couple of you guys are talking about shootouts in your recaps. Like, man, I've not been able to say that in years. Derrick Henry, he's probably gone. I'd say 99%. But Callahan was asked about that. And he says, "I'm never gonna say I don't want great players, and Derrick Henry's a great player. So hopefully, for some reason, they can pay him money. I mean, I'd still make him, a top 3 paid running back in the NFL to keep him.
Yeah.
So I think he's worth that just in jersey sales, just in watching the Tennessee Titans. People want to watch Titans games to see Derrick Henry. They don't watch Titans games to see Tajay Spears and Nick Westbrook and Treylon Burks. Derrick Henry, he's the attraction. I say throw the bag at him, throw some money at offensive linemen. We're the most cap in the NFL, no cap, and we need to bring in some talent to this team. Use early draft picks to take linemen that will block for.
No cap.
No cap.
I gotta go to bed, y'all. Y'all have a good night.
Yeah, man. Have a good one.
The other part of the Texans news would be that C.J. Stroud also was named an alternate to the Pro Bowl. And Bobby Slowick and quarterback coach Gerard Johnson have both signed extensions that give them raises to stay in Houston at least for one more year. So C.J. Stroud will have the continuity that I was hoping for, and that's going to be really big for his development going forward. That's going to be hype. So if you guys don't have any closing comments, no?
No, I don't.
All right. Then I think it's a good spot to wrap it up. Go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button. Trying to get 35 likes, trying to get 500 subscribers. We're at 424 time of this recording.
Let's go.
Hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything future content related. And guys, thank you for your time this evening. I know this one was a longer one, a lot more involved than what we normally do. So I appreciate you guys taking time out of your evening for that. I appreciate you guys for watching. Mostly, be good people. We are Texans.